Islam and Judaism, twin faiths or ancient rivals, the secrets uncovered. Two of the world's oldest monotheistic faiths share roots, prophets, and sacred promises, but beneath the surface lies a story of rivalry, hidden truths, and conflicts that have shaped civilization. Islam and Judaism, intertwined by Abrahamic lineage, yet separated by centuries of divergent revelation, law, and cultural evolution. Both faiths honor prophets, uphold divine law, and guide millions toward ethical living, but their interactions reveal a hidden history of collaboration, conflict, and theological tension. This journey is more than history. It is an exploration of the human struggle to understand the divine, interpret scripture, and navigate moral and societal challenges. By uncovering the shared origins, hidden conflicts, and philosophical undercurrents of Islam and Judaism, we aim to illuminate lessons that remain vital for humanity today. Lessons of ethics, courage, justice, and reflection. Through cinematic storytelling, historical depth, and philosophical insight, this manuscript exposes the secrets, clashes, and convergences of these twin faiths, offering both motivation and awakening for contemporary readers. Shared roots: Abraham, prophets, and the birth of faith. Long before the empires rose and fell, before civilizations carved their names into stone, there was a man who walked the deserts, guided by a promise that would shape the destiny of millions. Ibrahim in Islamic tradition, stands as the singular figure linking two of humanity's greatest faiths, Judaism and Islam. His footsteps, traced across the sands of history, mark the convergence of divine purpose, human courage, and moral awakening. The story of Abraham is not merely historical. It is profoundly ethical and philosophical. It is the story of a human called to act with integrity, to trust in the unseen, and to uphold justice, mercy, and ethical courage amidst uncertainty. Through him, we glimpse the seeds of both Judaism and Islam, twin faiths that emerge from shared roots, intertwined in lineage, prophecy, and covenant, yet destined to walk divergent paths. To understand Abraham is to understand the very essence of monotheism, the foundation of divine guidance, and the profound moral principles that continue to resonate in human society. It is a lesson in obedience, courage, and the delicate balance between human will and divine decree. In the Quran, Abraham is called a friend of God, a paragon of unwavering faith and moral rectitude. He challenges idols, confronts tyranny, and teaches that devotion to the one true God requires courage, reasoning, and ethical reflection. In Jewish tradition, Abraham is the father of a covenantal people, chosen to uphold divine law, ethical responsibility, and spiritual integrity. Both traditions honor his willingness to sacrifice personal comfort for the higher calling of moral and divine alignment. The cinematic power of Abraham's story emerges in his journeys, across deserts under scorching suns, through cities brimming with corruption, and into unknown lands guided only by faith. Each step is a philosophical meditation, the tension between fear and trust, human desire and divine command, doubt and unwavering belief. Motivationally, Abraham inspires not simply through faith, but through action, reflection, and ethical courage, the kind of courage that continues to challenge humanity today. From Abraham flows a lineage of prophets: Ishmael, Isaac, Moses, and Muhammad, all bearers of divine messages, each tasked with guiding humanity toward ethical living, justice, and spiritual awakening. These prophets are mirrors, reflecting principles of morality, conscience, and courage in distinct historical and cultural contexts. Their shared heritage forms the ethical and spiritual backbone of Islam and Judaism, a legacy of guidance that transcends time, culture, and geography. Central to this heritage is the covenant, the promise that binds humanity to divine guidance, ethical conduct, and moral responsibility. In Judaism, the covenant is legal, communal, and tied to the destiny of a chosen people. In Islam, the covenant is universal, moral, and emphasizes individual accountability alongside collective ethical responsibility. Philosophically, both traditions converge on a profound principle: that human beings are entrusted with conscience, moral discernment in the task of actualizing justice, mercy, and ethical courage in the world. The prophetic mission is inseparable from ethical awakening. Moses, as the liberator and lawgiver, teaches obedience, justice, and the courage to confront tyranny. Muhammad, as the final prophet, emphasizes moral responsibility, social justice, and the application of divine guidance to complex human societies. The ethical and philosophical threads connecting Abraham to these prophets form a continuum of human striving. The pursuit of truth, justice, and ethical excellence in the service of God and humanity. Cinematic storytelling illuminates the human dimension of these figures. Imagine Abraham confronting kings and tyrants, casting down idols and navigating the moral and spiritual challenges of his era. Picture Moses confronting Pharaoh, leading a people from oppression and receiving divine law amidst thunder and flame. Visualize Muhammad uniting disparate tribes, enacting ethical reform, and embodying moral courage in the face of hostility. Each narrative is an exploration of human potential, ethical reflection, and the delicate balance between destiny and choice. Ethical reflection emerges as the cornerstone of their teachings. Across the shared roots of Islam and Judaism, morality is not optional. It is the measure of spiritual alignment. Justice, mercy, compassion, and courage form the principles guiding both faiths, transcending doctrinal divergence. Motivationally, these examples inspire action, to stand against injustice, to reflect on one's choices, and to embody courage and ethical clarity in everyday life. The shared roots also illuminate philosophical principles central to human existence. First, the unity of God emphasizes ethical monotheism. Moral responsibility arises from recognition of a singular divine authority. Second, the prophetic example demonstrates that human potential is realized through ethical courage, reflection, and alignment with divine guidance. Third, the covenant illustrates that humanity is entrusted with conscience, moral discernment, and the duty to enact justice and mercy in the world. History has not always honored these principles. Misinterpretations, rivalries, and conflicts have sometimes obscured the shared ethical foundation of Islam and Judaism. Yet the philosophical and motivational lessons endure. Shared roots remind humanity that moral courage, ethical reflection, and spiritual awakening are possible, even amidst division, misunderstanding, or historical enmity. Cinematic reflection captures this awakening. Imagine modern communities discovering these shared roots, reflecting on the courage of Abraham, the moral clarity of Moses, and the ethical guidance of Muhammad. Imagine dialogues across faiths inspired by the common principles of justice, mercy, and conscience. Philosophically, this vision invites humans to transcend division, embrace ethical responsibility, and cultivate spiritual and moral awareness in every facet of life. The story of shared roots is ultimately a story of awakening. It is a call to recognize that ethical courage, moral reflection, and conscientious action are not merely historical ideals, but living imperatives. It challenges individuals and societies to embody the principles exemplified by Abraham and the prophets, to act with justice, to serve with compassion, and to reflect deeply upon the alignment of thought, word, and deed. Motivationally, this awakening is personal and collective. Personal awakening demands self-reflection, ethical vigilance, and moral courage. Collective awakening requires dialogue, collaboration, and the application of shared ethical principles in society. Together, they form a pathway for humanity to navigate contemporary challenges while remaining grounded in the timeless wisdom of shared prophetic heritage. Rivalries and revelations, history, conflict, and divergence. The story of Islam and Judaism is not only a story of shared roots and common prophets, it is also a story of divergence, rivalry, and revelation. Across centuries, these twin faiths, born from the same divine promise, nourished by ethical and prophetic guidance, have taken paths that sometimes converge but often clash. Their histories are intertwined with politics, culture, and human ambition, revealing that even sacred ideals are interpreted through the lens of human perception, desire, and circumstance. To understand the rivalry is to understand the human struggle with authority, interpretation, and moral responsibility. It is to recognize that faith is not abstract. It is lived, contested, and enacted in the human world. Conflict does not diminish the ethical core shared by both religions. Rather, it illuminates the tensions between divine ideals and human execution, between prophetic guidance and societal interpretation. From the deserts of Arabia to the hills of Jerusalem, the early followers of both faiths navigated complex social landscapes, forging identities that honored divine guidance while confronting human challenges. These journeys were fraught with tension, but they also offered the opportunity for ethical and philosophical reflection. They demanded courage, wisdom, and a capacity to discern truth amidst competing claims, cultural pressures, and historical turbulence. The divergence began not merely in theology, but in the interpretation of covenant, law, and prophetic mission. Judaism, rooted in the covenant with Abraham and the law revealed to Moses, emphasized communal identity, divine command, and ethical conduct bound to a people and a land. Islam, emerging later, emphasized the universality of prophetic guidance, individual moral accountability, and the ethical and spiritual obligations that transcend tribe, nation, and culture. These differences, though philosophical in origin, became deeply practical. Early encounters between Muslims and Jews, whether in Arabia, the Levant, or beyond, were shaped by both cooperation and tension. Alliances formed in shared defense or mutual interest, yet theological disputes and differing interpretations of law sometimes led to estrangement. Cinematically, one can imagine caravans traversing deserts, tribes negotiating survival, prophets urging justice, and communities navigating the delicate balance between ethical ideals and worldly necessity. Ethical reflection is central to understanding this divergence. Each faith emphasizes moral courage, yet interprets it differently. Judaism situates moral courage within a communal covenant, guiding collective responsibility and adherence to divine law. Islam situates moral courage within a universal ethical framework, emphasizing personal accountability, justice, and mercy as reflections of divine will. Both frameworks call for human engagement, yet the divergence in application led to historical tension, social negotiation, and cultural differentiation. The historical consequences of this divergence are profound. From the early conflicts in Medina and Mecca to the complex interactions in medieval Spain and the Ottoman Empire, the twin faiths navigated both confrontation and collaboration. Jewish communities often thrived under Muslim rule, yet theological differences created boundaries and occasional conflicts. Philosophically, this illustrates that human institutions, however guided by divine principles, are shaped by interpretation, politics, and circumstance. The rivalry also manifests in scripture and interpretation. The Quran and Torah share many narratives, yet their emphases differ. Stories of prophets, ethical lessons, and divine justice are presented with distinct moral and philosophical aims. In the Quran, emphasis is placed on universality, moral accountability, and the prophetic model as a guide for all humanity. In the Torah, emphasis is placed on covenantal law, communal responsibility, and ethical integrity within a specific historical and cultural context. This divergence, subtle yet profound, shapes centuries of religious thought, practice, and identity. Cinematically, one can visualize the unfolding tension. Prophets teaching, communities interpreting, leaders negotiating, and ordinary people striving to live ethically amidst doctrinal complexity. These narratives illuminate both the fragility and the resilience of human morality when filtered through faith, tradition, and historical circumstance. The philosophical implications are striking. Rivalry is not merely conflict. It is a mirror reflecting human struggle to understand justice, divine will, and ethical responsibility. It demonstrates the challenges inherent in translating divine guidance into social, legal, and personal action. Motivationally, this reminds humanity that interpretation is a responsibility, not merely a privilege. Understanding requires reflection, courage, and humility. Historical divergence also reveals the dangers of rigid dogma. When ethical principles are subordinated to institutional authority, conflict and misunderstanding intensify. Both faiths offer examples where rigid adherence to literal interpretations, social power, or political expediency led to tension and estrangement. Yet both also offer examples where reflection, ethical courage, and prophetic guidance bridged divides, cultivated justice, and inspired moral awakening. The human struggle with revelation, interpretation, and ethical responsibility is timeless. Islam and Judaism, in their divergence, teach that faith cannot be passive. It demands engagement, reflection, and ethical action. They remind humanity that moral clarity is not given automatically by scripture or tradition. It emerges through conscientious reflection, courage in the face of opposition, and dedication to justice and mercy. The cinematic and motivational lesson is clear. Rivalry need not be destructive. It can be a catalyst for reflection, growth, and ethical awareness. When interpreted wisely, divergence fosters dialogue, encourages philosophical inquiry, and challenges humanity to refine its understanding of justice, compassion, and moral courage. Even in conflict, shared ethical principles endure. Justice, mercy, humility, and moral courage remain central to both faiths, guiding individuals to act rightly, question assumptions, and cultivate conscience. Philosophically, these principles highlight the universality of ethical responsibility, that human beings are accountable to divine guidance, moral reasoning, and the welfare of their communities. In modern context, the lessons of rivalry and divergence resonate with urgent clarity. Humanity faces ethical challenges of globalization, technological complexity, and social fragmentation. By studying the historical interplay of Islam and Judaism, we uncover timeless insights into cooperation, ethical courage, and moral responsibility. Motivationally, this encourages contemporary individuals and societies to rise above division, embrace shared principles, and act with conscience and courage. The awakening emerges through recognition of shared heritage and ethical responsibility. While history bears witness to conflict, it also bears witness to collaboration, coexistence, and shared moral purpose. This duality illustrates that rivalry, when understood philosophically, becomes an opportunity, a call to cultivate ethical awareness, bridge divides, and translate divine guidance into conscientious action. Cinematic imagery reinforces this awakening. Communities engaging in dialogue, individuals confronting injustice, leaders balancing wisdom with courage, and ordinary people embodying justice, mercy, and ethical clarity in daily life. Philosophically, it demonstrates that human moral potential is realized not in isolation, but through interaction, reflection, and conscious engagement with shared ethical principles. As history unfolded, divergence shaped identity, law, and theology. Yet at the heart of both faiths remains a call to justice, compassion, and moral courage, a call that transcends rivalry, inviting humanity to awaken to the ethical and philosophical imperatives of shared prophetic heritage. Motivationally, this awakening challenges modern humanity to reflect on ethical responsibility. Understanding divergence requires self-examination, moral courage, and conscientious reflection. Bridge historical divides. Cooperation and understanding emerge through dialogue, shared principles, and philosophical inquiry. Embody moral courage. Ethical principles demand action, not mere belief. Courage in daily life is the modern reflection of prophetic guidance. Apply lessons universally. Beyond the historical context, the shared ethics of Islam and Judaism offer guidance for justice, compassion, and conscience in contemporary society. Rivalry and divergence, therefore, are not endpoints. They are invitations. Invitations to awaken, to reflect, and to engage deeply with the ethical, philosophical, and moral principles that underlie both faiths. They remind us that understanding is forged not only through study, but through courageous action, moral reflection, and conscientious living. Awakening to the twin faiths, lessons for modern humanity. The story of Islam and Judaism is at once ancient and urgently contemporary. Having explored their shared roots in Part 1 and the divergence, rivalry, and revelations in Part 2, we now confront the ultimate question. What can humanity learn from these intertwined yet distinct traditions today? How can the ethical, philosophical, and spiritual wisdom embedded in these faiths guide us in a modern world of complexity, conflict, and moral uncertainty? This awakening is both personal and collective. It is personal in the sense that each individual is called to reflect, act, and embody ethical principles in daily life. It is collective because the legacy of these twin faiths transcends private morality. It informs societal structures, communal responsibilities, and even global ethics. By engaging deeply with their lessons, humanity can navigate contemporary challenges with courage, conscience, and clarity. Ethical responsibility and moral courage. At the core of both Islam and Judaism lies a profound emphasis on ethical responsibility. The prophets, the covenants, and the scriptures all point toward a life guided by justice, compassion, and moral courage. Courage in action. The ethical courage of Abraham, Moses, and Muhammad serves as a template for facing contemporary challenges. Cinematically, one can imagine individuals confronting societal injustice, corporate corruption, or personal ethical dilemmas with the same resolve shown by the prophets. Conscience as guide. Moral awareness, reflection, and accountability are emphasized in both traditions. Motivationally, this awakens individuals to the reality that faith is inseparable from action. It is not enough to believe. One must act with integrity and wisdom. Navigating modern complexity. Today's world presents moral and ethical challenges that the prophets could not have foreseen. Climate change, global inequality, and technological dilemmas. Philosophically, the principles of justice, mercy, and moral responsibility remain timeless, providing a compass amidst uncertainty. Dialogue and bridging divides. The historical rivalry between Islam and Judaism, while real, also illuminates the potential for understanding, cooperation, and reconciliation. Recognizing shared values. Justice, compassion, humility, and moral courage are central to both faiths. Cinematically, imagine interfaith dialogue, educational initiatives, and collaborative projects that celebrate common ethical ground. Learning from differences. Divergent interpretations are not merely obstacles. They are opportunities for reflection, growth, and intellectual humility. Motivationally, this teaches that embracing complexity rather than fearing it fosters maturity, empathy, and ethical sophistication. Collective ethical action. Beyond personal morality, awakening requires social engagement, working to alleviate suffering, promote justice, and cultivate communities rooted in ethical principles. Philosophically, this reflects the Quranic and Torah emphasis on humans as stewards of moral and social order, integrating spiritual and ethical insight into daily life. Awakening is not abstract, it must be lived. The ethical principles of Islam and Judaism, justice, mercy, reflection, courage, can guide daily decisions, interpersonal relationships, and professional conduct. Personal ethics. Daily choices, from honesty in communication to fairness in work, embody the timeless ethical principles of both faiths. Cinematically, imagine ordinary moments infused with ethical consciousness, transforming mundane life into moral practice. Community engagement. Social responsibility, charity, and advocacy reflect the communal dimension of both traditions. Motivationally, this demonstrates that awakening is not solitary. It flourishes through active participation in the welfare of others. Global implications. Ethical reflection on global issues, conflict, inequality, environmental degradation, is a natural extension of the twin faiths' moral vision. Philosophically, this underscores the universal applicability of ethical principles across cultures, time, and geography. Practical lessons for modern humanity. Ethical vigilance. Constant self-reflection, accountability, and moral courage prevent ethical complacency. Cinematic imagery. Individuals pausing amidst the rush of life to reflect, recalibrate, and act with integrity. Dialogue over division. Engagement across faiths, cultures, and perspectives fosters understanding, cooperation, and peace. Motivationally, this illustrates that human conflicts, whether religious or secular, can be approached with wisdom, empathy, and courage. Conscience in action. Ethical principles demand implementation in law, policy, and societal norms. Philosophically, awakening is incomplete without action. Belief must translate into the pursuit of justice, mercy, and communal welfare. Cinematic vision, humanity awakened. Imagine a world where the lessons of Islam and Judaism are fully embraced. Individuals live with moral clarity, confronting injustice and nurturing compassion. Communities engage ethically, promoting cooperation, education, and mutual respect. Societies enact justice, equality, and sustainability as core principles. Global humanity awakens to conscience-guided action, bridging faiths, cultures, and historical divides. This vision is not utopian fantasy. It is a philosophical and ethical imperative. The twin faiths offer a framework for awakening, demonstrating that the cultivation of conscience, moral courage, and ethical reflection can transform both individuals and societies. Philosophical reflection, unity amid diversity. Divergence between Islam and Judaism is not a cause for despair, but a call for philosophical engagement. Through careful reflection, humans can recognize shared ethical principles that transcend historical conflict. Human responsibility to interpret divine guidance thoughtfully and courageously. The universality of moral action, reminding us that justice, mercy, and compassion are not bound by Scripture alone, but by human conscience. Motivationally, this awareness awakens a sense of purpose. That ethical living, conscientious action, and courageous reflection are the highest forms of human expression. Conclusion: living the awakening today. Awakening to the twin faiths, Islam and Judaism, requires embracing both their shared roots and their historical divergence. It demands ethical courage, confronting injustice, choosing integrity and acting decisively, reflection and conscience, cultivating moral awareness and deliberate choice, dialogue and empathy, bridging differences, fostering understanding, and learning from diversity. Collective responsibility, applying ethical principles to societal and global challenges. Through this awakening, humanity can honor the legacy of Abraham, Moses, and Muhammad, translating ancient wisdom into contemporary action. Cinematically, it is the story of individuals and communities rising to ethical maturity. Motivationally, it is a call to personal and collective transformation. Philosophically, it is an invitation to embody conscience, courage, and compassion in every aspect of life. Islam and Judaism, whether twin faiths or ancient rivals, converge in their ultimate ethical vision, a world shaped by justice, guided by conscience, and awakened to the moral and spiritual potential of humanity. The lessons of history, scripture, and philosophy converge to illuminate a path forward, one that demands reflection, courage, and ethical action in every moment.